Here we are in Italy. This is Ken Brant, and he's an artist.
Hey everybody, welcome, and this is the 8th Plein in Italy video, but it's not the 8th painting that I did while I was there. This is actually the 10th painting that we did while we were there, and this is being painted at a little commune in Italy called Montemignaio. And if you've seen the video previous to this one, I do mention that as well, because that was where I did the first painting before this one in the morning. And a woman had come out of her house, and she allowed us to come in her backyard and paint the scene in her backyard, which was very cool and a very interesting area there. And she had some plant life there, and I just liked the way the sun was hitting the back building that was behind her house. I believe it was a shed, a pretty big shed though, and I don't know what was in it. I didn't do any, cruising around the backyard or anything while we were there. I didn't want to make anybody upset, although I don't really believe she would have minded. So yeah, so here we are, and I started the painting, and you can see I flipped my canvas around. I realized as I was starting the painting that it would have fit better on the canvas in the portrait style position of the canvas, as opposed to the landscape style of the canvas. And so I did flip it around, and I felt better with the composition would be better suited for that size. And you can see here the way the light is hitting that building. Now that's not the house. The house is actually behind me. The building that I'm painting is across the backyard, and like I said, it's like maybe a shed of some sort, but it looks like it houses a lot more than just gardening equipment or whatever. Perhaps it holds a storage facility for food or canning items of that sort. I can only guess at this point. Like I said, I didn't actually venture in there, and the woman never came back out, so I couldn't ask her any questions, and I really doubt that I would have understood anything she had said if I did ask. So yeah, I don't know very much Italian, very little in fact. I know how to say buongiorno and grazie. That's that's about the extent of my Italian, and which I did use that a lot while I was there. But the people are really super friendly. They are more than happy to talk to you. When they see you painting, the people of Italy, they just love art and artists, and they do not hesitate at all to talk to you when you're painting or looking at art, or just they love discussing art. And that's one of the reasons why we were there, because it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful place to paint, and the people just love art. It's just it's the whole ambiance of the place is just perfect for artistry. So here I am painting this scene that in front of me here, and I want to capture that contrasting light. If you can see the way the sun is hitting the top of the building there, and then you have the shadow area below, I wanted to make sure that I captured that contrast between the light and the dark. So I gave it a valiant attempt, and my palette consists of the colors of titanium white, lemon yellow, cadmium yellow, I had cadmium red, I had cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, asphaltum, I had and ivory black. And I also had yellow ochre. I need to mention that as well. Yellow ochre. Yellow ochre was one of those colors that I used quite a bit of while I was there. In fact, I brought a big tube of it, knowing in advance that that would be one of the colors I was going to be utilizing the most. And the asphaltum was another color that I did utilize a lot of as well. So yeah, this was the scene I was painting, and I penciled it. I didn't pencil it in. I actually used my brush to draw the scene in front of me, and so that's what I did there. And I was using the asphaltum, and some areas I would dip my brush into some solvent and paint thinner is actually what it was, and to you know, when I wanted to kind of put like a light wash over the area. And you can see here, putting in the sky, you have to be really careful when you're, you know, when you're hitting the area that you drew in with your brush, because you will mix the two colors. And that's what happened here with the blue and the asphaltum. You can see I kind of got muddied up my blue there, and but I wasn't too concerned with the blue because I knew I could fix it. In fact, here Stefan had come over and visited to see what I was doing, and you can see his hand there. He was showing me how to work in that blue and to clean up that area a bit to get a better value of the sky. And because it was a bit dark, and I did need to lighten that up. So what I wanted to do, or not what I wanted to do, what I eventually did, is the top part of the sky, the top of the canvas, I used the ultramarine blue, which is a darker, warmer blue, and the bottom of the where the sky meets the building, that was the cerulean blue, which is a lighter and cooler blue. And so this way I got some interest in the sky. You're going from a dark to a light, and then I was able to then concentrate on my buildings after that. So that's what's going on here, and I was trying the best I could to cover up where the brown and the blue had mixed. And eventually that does clean up. I let it sit for a little bit and let the paint kind of dry. Not dry, but it gets thicker as it sits for a little bit. And then it's a lot easier to go over the top of that color without so much blending going on, because when it's fresh and loose out of the tube, it will blend very nicely with other colors. So much so that it can be an issue when you do not want it to do that. So one thing I like to do is I'll let an area just kind of, I'll give it about 15 minutes. When you're outside, you can give it a short period of time, because the air and the sun, and on this particular day, had to be it was probably about 75 degrees that morning. And so the temperature helps kind of thicken that paint up, kind of, you know, as it's going through that drying stage, and makes it a lot easier to go over the top of. So the those are colors I used for the sky. And then when I started working on the buildings, if you can see there, the predominant color there would be the yellow ochre, especially in the lighter areas. And I mixed my yellow ochre with the cadmium yellow and the cadmium lemon and the titanium white. And I used different variations of that color as I was doing the buildings to try to get the values as close as I could to what I was actually seeing. And sometimes it's a bit difficult to actually mix the colors, especially on the small plein air box that I was using. Don't get me wrong, I love the sienna. I think it's they call it pochade box. The sienna box is a beautiful box. They come in different sizes. This one was the smaller one. It does come with a little tray that attaches to the right hand side of the box that you can lay your brushes on, which is nice. And you can see here how it opens up, and it will clamp onto that is a 9x12 canvas size. It will actually clamp onto a much larger canvas than a 9x12, so that is nice also. And you can go pretty much as wide as you need to, but usually when you're plein air painting, you do not use a very large canvas. I like to keep it about the 9x12. I might go with an 11x14. That would fit just as well on this box. And the area where you place your palette is actually, there's inside the box is a pane of glass that you can put your paints on, and it makes it for very easy to clean up because you can just scrape that right off. It cleans up real nice. So yeah, it's a great box. The issue that I was having the whole time I was there was actually, and you can see it as I'm painting, how everything is moving. The box is wiggling, and so my picture is moving every time I press on it when I'm painting, and that is the result of the tripod I was using. I needed to get a different base that screws into the bottom of the box. It works great for a camera, but in this particular instance, the movement that it was causing with the box was undesirable at best. So I ended up holding on to the edge of the box a lot while I was painting, just to keep it from wiggling back and forth. It didn't affect my painting at all. It just was, was something that annoyed me pretty much throughout the whole time I was there. And I did not find a shop, a camera shop or anything while we were there in Florence. I just didn't find one that sold tripods, so I couldn't change that out. So I just dealt with it the time I was there. And you can see here I'm using the yellow ochre, and I'm using a darker shade. So I have my yellow ochre and I'm mixing it with the asphaltum to give it a darker value. And so it didn't matter, because if it blended in with that shadow area, actually that's exactly what I did want it to do. I did want it to blend nicely into the shadow area, where I was using asphaltum as the darker color. So that way I had a nice transition there, and in that area. So and here you can see I noticed that while I was painting, and you'll notice this, so when you get out there and you're plein air painting, you're making adjustments constantly as you're going along. For example, the lighting condition changes pretty much every 7 minutes. It's a totally different set of values in front of you as what you had the 7 minutes prior. And in that whole time in between that 7 minutes, it's gradually changing as well. So I did notice that the color, the value at the top of the shed was a lot brighter than the way I had painted it. So I needed to go back over that and change that value. And that's what I was doing there with the shaded area. I was adding the yellow ochre into on top of that asphalt to kind of lighten that up a bit, because I had placed it much too dark initially. But beautiful thing with oils, it's easy to go over, it's easy to change. If you make a mistake, you just scrape it off the canvas, go over it, or a rag. You can dip your rag into the solvent and the paint thinner, and you can basically erase an area, remove the oil from that area, and then paint right over that area, and you're good to go. So the roof area colors, those I use the cadmium red, and if you mix cadmium red with the asphaltum, you get the terracotta color that a lot of the roofs over in Italy were the color of. Like a flower pot. That's terracotta, pretty much. That's the clay that they use on that, terracotta clay, and that's that orangey reddish color is the color that you get with that. So cadmium red, the asphaltum, those were the two colors that I mixed together to get that terracotta color. Now here you can see, again, I'm suffering from the same dilemma that I did earlier, is I painted those roofs a lot darker than they actually are. And to be completely honest with you, I do not recall why I was seeing it darker than what it was, or why I initially went with that color, as opposed to changing it directly, or immediately thereafter when I noticed it was darker. But here I am going back over it, lightening it up, and so I do that throughout this painting. I keep adjusting my values. Here I am going over that area. I said, I did notice, it's lighter than what I have there. I need to change that. So, and again, doesn't have to be exact. What you see in front of you. I am allowed some artistic licensing here on everything that I paint, and a lot of times I like to utilize that. So if I want a part of the roof darker than what it actually is, and I like the way it looks, then that's the way I'm going to paint it. That's the way it'll stay. I won't change it. So for the green, here's a color that I forgot to mention I have on my palette. I didn't mention the green, and the green that I have on my palette is the permanent yellow green. It's a very bright green. It's like if you take a green leaf and you let the sunlight hit it, that really bright green is the color of the permanent yellow green. The reason I like to use permanent yellow green on my palette is it's really easy to add darker colors to it, or lighter colors. For example, if I add asphaltum to it, it turns the green to more of an olive drab color, and I can make it darker and change the value that way. Or if I want the lighter green, I can add the cadmium yellow or the lemon yellow to it and make it even brighter than what it is. And so that's one of the reasons I like to use it. And if I take the cerulean blue and mix it in there, I get a different green. If I take the ultramarine blue and mix it in there, I get a different green. And I can look at all those greens that I have and how I mix them and apply them how I see them in front of me. So like, for example, you can see the bushes in front of that shed there is a much darker green in value than the lawn is. So the lawn has a lighter green, so I have to try to somehow mix my colors accordingly to show that. And that also helps with your depth. So like if you just put one color green down and utilize it in that area, it comes out very flat. So by changing the values of that green along the way, like for example, you can see I used more of a yellowish tint to the green as it's closer to the shed, and then I darkened it up a little bit as it came forward. That kind of it changes it from a flat perspective to a more of a three-dimensional perspective. You get some depth in there, and so that's the whole reason you want to do it that way. So you'll have to excuse my shoulder from getting in the way there. You get a very nice look at my shirt, and I apologize for that. A lot of times while I'm painting and I have the camera set up behind me, a lot of times I find I get in the way of the camera, and not intentional. Just you're painting and you get lost in the what you're doing, and I forget to look at times to see if I'm blocking my the view. So yeah, so that's what's going on here with the green. Now there are the rocks, not rocks, but kind of like they are rocks, but they're where the footpath is, the paving stones, I guess we can call them. Those are going to be different values of gray. So I will use my blue and my ivory black, and I will do a mixture of like the cerulean blue and the ivory black, and it'll make a really nice gray. And then I can change that value of that gray by adding in certain amounts of titanium white. So that's a lot of times what I'll do. I'll mix that gray, and depending on how much blue or how much ivory black will depend on how dark that gray is, and then I can just add little bits of titanium white as I go along, and I can actually lighten that up and use each variation of that to give really nice values on those paving stones. And that step there, that's also to the right near the bottom, those were flat rocks that were kind of stacked on top of each other. So that was interesting that they made a step out of that. And so again, I did the same thing. I just used that different variations of gray for that, and it worked out really nice. And all in all, I was very pleased with how this painting came out for the amount of time that we were there. I believe this was about an hour and a half worth of plein air painting on this particular scene. And then after this, we broke for lunch, and we went down to the bottom of the commune there, and they had a restaurant right there, and we were the only patrons of that restaurant at the time, so we got red carpet service basically, and the owners of the restaurant presented us with a real large bottle of champagne on the house, and I think because we were probably the only ones going to be spending money that day at their restaurant, so they were very happy to see us. Interesting thing was going on there. A lot of the people that live in this little village, they were up in the hills, and we could see them coming down carrying things in their hands, and what it was they were collecting truffles, and so the owner of the restaurant had fresh truffles in for us to eat along with our food, which was really good. So yeah, it's a beautiful place to visit. Very quiet, very serene, and it was a great time painting there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And this painting came out very well. The first painting I did, I wasn't quite as happy with that one as I was with this one, and I think it was just a matter of getting warmed up and getting the brush and the paint flowing, and just things work a little bit better, you know, when as you're warming up and you're getting used to the working on the canvas. So yeah, this painting came out much better. And when I do this one in the studio, in the series that you'll be that I've already started from plein air to studio, this will be a really fun one to work on. And I don't think I'll have much to really change with this one. It should be just as good as it is. So yeah, if you like this video, make sure you leave some comments in the comment section below. And in fact, even if you you watch the video and you're not a subscriber and you don't subscribe, please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. I really am interested in knowing how these videos are going. I mean, the #1 reason I put these videos up is to expose my work, but I really do like the feedback. You know, if there's something you want to see, then I'll be more than happy to do a video on it. Or if there's something that I'm doing or not doing that you would like or not like, let me know, because I could make my changes. And you know, I can't change anything if I don't know if there's anything wrong. So yeah, leave a comment below. And if you're not a subscriber and you do want to subscribe, please do. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell notification. Hit the like button. Give me a thumbs up. And yeah, I'm looking forward to putting more of these paintings up. And as this series ends, won't have any more plein air paintings from Italy to do, but I will have some plein air paintings that we'll do that I'll do locally and put those up. And so yeah, this will continue on. And of course, then I got some nice still life videos I'm working on, and I'm working on some other paintings. So, and there's a couple other ideas that I have that I'm going to be adding to the repertoire videos. And if you like them, let me know. If you don't, let me know. And yeah, until next time, this is Ken Brant signing off.